why is it so strange anyway? Why is it? Why do we think the Tai Chi trend doesn't have power or strength? Why do you think we say that? Because we associate strength and power with what? With number one, speed. Two, muscle, power. And both of these are not in Tai Chi training. That's why we have this kind of like our mind is all mixed up. Can't figure that out. Okay. So how do we reconcile these two ideas, the power of force and this idea of nature? Where is the source of this confusion? Now, believe it or not, this confusion is right under our very noses. How do we interpret force? When you say, oh, your punch has a lot of force, what does that mean? Have you asked? So I want to ask the question: what does it mean to say your punch has a lot of force? Okay. For example, when you see a demonstration of a karate chop that smash a stack of bricks, boom, he breaks all the bricks. Of course, you say, wow, great force, right? But what does it mean? Now, do you know that the same force, powerful punch of a karate master does not produce the same force? The punch does not give you the same force. Well, it depends on what you strike. You bring the punch, I give you a pillow. Okay, you punch the pillow. What force do you see? You see scattered feathers from the pillow, right? But if I put a brick in front of you to a master, what does it do? The same punch can break the brick. Or if you put a nose in front of you, what will happen? You see a bloody nose, right? So what actually is happening when you throw a punch? When the body is generating the punch, you're not producing the force. You are only producing the motion of the punch, right? So what happens? Only when the fist comes into contact with an object, when it's obstructed, okay? When your head is there, you don't want to put your head in the fist, right? When there is a collision. So the force is created because of the collision of your fist and the target. That's when the force is created. The body can only produce motion, not force. And that is the source of our confusion. So remember, there are two separate kinds of force when we talk about force of the body. One is the muscle force that produces the motion. The contraction of your muscle that produces your motion. Okay? That is one kind of force, muscle force. And what can the muscles do? Only one thing. When it's innervated, all it does is contract. So can you imagine that we can do so many things out of just contraction of the muscles, right? So it just tells you how ingenious the architecture of our skeletal frame is, okay? Now, the other force is the force that we see that inflicts damage. And that force comes about, is created only at the time of your fist striking an obstacle or when the motion of your body is obstructed or resisted. Okay? So these are two different kinds of force, two different kinds of forces when it relates to the body. So if you are clear about that, then we can move on to figure out what is Neijing, what is Rou and Gang. So let me quickly just mention one other thing. The idea of force in physics is very well defined, right? What is it? In fact, we have Newton's second law of motion. So let me frame it in this way. First of all, I talked about momentum, the change of motion. When you slow down, when something strikes something, the momentum is changed. Okay? Now, force is created when you have a change in momentum. Force is equal to the change in momentum one other factor, the time factor it takes for the momentum to change. So change of momentum divided by the time period for the momentum change to occur. So the shorter the period of the momentum change divided by a smaller number, what happens? Much larger force, right? Okay? So we experience that all the time. When you slow down the car, okay, with several lengths ahead of you, you slow down in, let's say, a few seconds. Well, you feel the force is very gentle of the momentum of the change of the car, bringing the momentum of the car to zero. You can feel the force, right? But it's very gentle. What happens when you slam on the brakes because a deer jumps in front of the car? All of a sudden, you feel this surge of force. Why? Because momentum is brought to zero in less than a fraction of a second. So the same momentum change from to zero is now divided by a fraction of a second, so you feel strong surge of the force. That's why a boxer, when he wants to knock you down, where does he punch you? You think he punch you on the belly? When you punch on the belly, you slow down the momentum, you can absorb it, it takes more time to slow it down. But when you punch when you punch someone on the skull is bone, right? To slow down the change of momentum, suddenly reduced to a very small amount of time. So the impact force becomes tremendous. And that's when you knock him down. Okay? Now you might say, hey, wait a minute. You're talking about boxing, huh? Tai Chi Chuan is not boxing, right? Well, you think that the principle doesn't apply? Now, we are talking about not, but the principle is important because if you understand the principle of this collision, the principle of momentum, principle of this force that I'm talking about, then it helps you train how to develop the power. Okay? Now, let's take an example. How many of you are golfers? Weekend golfers? You try your best to swing the golf stick as hard to try to get a long drive, right? So what do? If you just go to the golf and you try the first time, you swing it as hard as you can, don't you? Right? So that's how you do it. And not only that, one of the practices they make you do when you do to improve your golf swing is that they strap you in a restraining belt, right? So when you try to move against the restraining belt to help you develop the power, right? So you try to, in other words, normally we think about developing power is to exert as much force as we can. So when we practice throwing a punch, what do? Same thing, right? You throw a punch as hard as you can, okay? None of these things are like Tai Chi Chuan, but there is such a lot of similarities all the same. Now Tai Chi Chuan, when we practice, for example, in Tai Chi Chuan practice, we also practice a punch. When we practice it, we do it very slowly. When we do it slowly, what are we trying to do? We are trying to generate the motion using the waist. Right? Your yao, we always say the yao is to lead in your motion. In Tai Chi Chuan, the classics, we always talk about the yao leading the directing the qing, right? So with Tai Chi Chuan, what do? We train to move the body with the waist. Why do we move with the waist? You move with the waist, you direct your motion, is because by doing so, the motion involves your entire body. You follow? Right? That's why. So when you involve your entire body, you involve as much mass as you can summon from your body. More mass means what? Momentum is what? Mass times velocity. Right? You don't throw a punch just this part. You throw a punch, right? With the whole weight. The whole body moves, right? Okay. Now understand momentum. I got more body involved in momentum. What about speed? The Tai Chi is so slow. But the training of Tai Chi does what? It creates, it helps you, it instills, it cultivates this fluency of your body motion in making use of this whole body mass together. It instills the idea of using the whole body. It makes your body so that you can move with fluency of the idea of the whole body motion. So, what do you do if you want to increase speed? What do you do when you're driving a car, you want to increase speed? Slam on the brake, slam on the gas, right? Boom, it flies off, right? So, first of all, the Tai Chi training trains your body how to move. In this case that I'm just talking about, involving as much of your body mass as you can. Then when you want to get speed, you simply accelerate. Accelerate because of your fluency of your motion. You see, when you train, when we say Tai Chi, slow, right? Right? We use the whole body. So when we want to do fast, okay? So all we do is accelerate the motion, and we have speed. So when you have speed, and when you have your motion involving more of your body, you got the momentum that you need, and that is what will bring more, that is to your advantage, okay? So that's how Tai Chi training, in this case you can see, if we look at momentum change, it gives us focus as to what we are doing when we are training, in Tai Chi Chuan training. Now, so, now let's try to explain force. The force of, in the Rou and Gang of Taiji. Force, you know, is a vector. Vector has two ideas, right? It has magnitude and it has direction. So, the Rou and Gang of Taiji makes very clever use of changing the vectors, the force of the vector, and thereby changing the impact between the two persons. What is the cardinal rule in Tai Chi Chuan Facial? When someone pushes you, you push back. Of course, the first time you do, you push me, I push you back because I don't want to be pushed over, right? But when you push back, you have force against force, right? Now, how are we doing for time? Okay. Now, so when someone pushes you, okay, because you use the Rou Jing, the soft Jing, to absorb the force coming first, right? And then what do? You change, you turn. The moment you turn, you change, what happens to the force? The direction of the force, the vector direction of the force, gets deflected away from the center. Then it goes to the side. Then he falters. When he falters, what do? Immediately, you follow up by pushing him with whatever. So here is Yin Jing, Luo Kung, leading him to emptiness, right? You need Rou Jing you must have the softness to receive and to turn and to guide the Jing away, the force away. Then he will fall to emptiness. And then when he falters, we make use of his faltering momentum and push him off. And immediately, we're using his momentum. So that is Jie Li Da Ren, to borrow his momentum to strike him back. Okay? So you can see, if you have that, what did I just demonstrated? Yi Rou Ke Gang, using soft to overcome the hard. Now, if I use hard to fight him, we are loggerhead, right? So this is using soft to overcome the hard, right? Receive, deflect, and throw, okay? I'm going to wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have time for questions.
Now, I mean, there are many things.
Okay.
Oh no, it's okay. Say. You see, when we say 四两拨千斤, for example, using 4 ounces to overcome 1,000 pounds, sounds wonderful, right? If you just think a moment, isn't that expression? What does it say? That expression say? It's an expression of the use of leverage, right? Except, of course, it's in the body. We don't have a bar, we don't have a fulcrum, we don't have a facility of a fulcrum and a bar that we can use a little force to overcome, right? We don't have that, but what do we have? Think of a screwdriver. Huh? If I hold the handle of a screwdriver, so and so strong hand holds the tip of a screwdriver, who do you think is going to win when we say, okay, you control the tip, I control the handle. All I have to do is just turn a little bit of the handle and I can overcome, doesn't matter how strong he is, I can overcome his strength in trying to hold the tip of the screwdriver, right? So how do we do it in Tai Chi? Same thing. We use the idea of roll, the softness, to turn. This is the handle of the screwdriver. Turn. Okay? Let's have a, very quickly then, let's have a young man. Is there a young man here? Maybe I can.
I can pretend to be young today.
You see, if he can hold very strong, can even use 2 hands. Hold tight, right? If I try to run away, he can feel me running away, right? But hold tight. It doesn't matter how tight he holds. You see, I can still move, right? What is my role? My role is that I understand that I have a joint here. None of these things are affected. Is this thing affected? Not affected, right? Is this thing affected? Not affected, right? Only here. So if I understand the role, so I use my role, take some more. So all I just do, I use my role, right? Now you see, then, right? You see? Now, the other thing, so this is a showing how role works, right? The other thing is, in Qin-Na, you know what is Qin-Na? Qin-Na is to control the joints. So, you see, when you control the joints, you don't want to, this doesn't hurt. What hurts? This one hurts. Right? And which one hurts? This one hurts. You see? This one hurts. Okay? So, why does it hurt? Now, you can do the same thing. You can twist, right? Now, when he twists, okay, you see, when he twists, what do? Now, if I'm not careful, I let twist it, just twist, right? But my role, I can understand the role, the softness, right? So now you twist, so I just follow. So the understanding is just understanding of the role, the idea of role. Okay? So you see the manifest. Thank you very much. So you see the understanding of that's how this is a manifestation of role. The manifestation of Gang, easy, huh? 发劲. Right? 发劲, huh? 发劲 is what? 发劲 is release of your explosive energy, right? So the motion is the same, see? Use your weight. Huh? Then when you increase the speed, so the 发劲, right? So if I want the Jing to come to the top, it comes the whole body, right? So I want the Jing to come to the elbow, Okay, and I want it to the fist. Right? Okay, same thing, the whole body. So the manifestation of Gang Jing is to use your entire body's motion. That is Gang Jing. So now you have Rou and the Gang. Of course, then, let me just quickly wrap this up and tell you that, so what is the whole idea behind this Rou and Gang as far as when we're trying to train ourselves to do is what? The cognition of our joints. Okay? Cognition of our joints. So, in softness, if we can, the recognition of the body's capability to move in the mirrored joints, that is Rou, and to maintain balance, okay? And the other thing, Gang, if you understand all your joints and movements of your joints, then you can mobilize the masses of your body in unison when you move to give you the unified mass for your motion. That is when you exhibit the Gang. Okay? So then the question is, 用意, let me come back to 用意不用力 and I finish this up. Now, our problem is that our body is very stubborn. You hear me saying, oh, if I ask you, where is your elbow? You can point here. Where is your wrist? You can point. But when I chin na, you cannot tell. Where is your elbow? Where is the joint? Of course you can tell. If you can, then you'll be a master. The reason why someone cannot escape from a chin na lock is because they are locked. They don't realize that the lock is only locking at the joint. What about the other joints? Well, his mind cannot see the other joints that can be free. That, of course, requires a training to cultivate the Rou softness. Now, you can say, okay, I have Rou softness, great. But if you don't have Gang, if someone pushes you, you say, oh, I use the Rou. Yeah, I use Rou, someone will just push you off. A little kid, a young kid, has a lot of Rou, right? He doesn't have anything, but he gets shoved off, right? So you must have Gang to support your maneuver. So you must have Rou and Gang. Okay? If you have Gang, you are so stiff. The moment someone catches you, you cannot change. And that's no good either. So when you express Gang, it must be Rou. Otherwise, the power will not come out. So you must have Rou and Gang in equal measure. And so when we train, 用意不用力 means what? Coming back to that, our body, as I said, is so stubborn. We have such a habit. When we say move, when we say throw a punch, immediately the action, the muscles closer to the action, jumps out first. You never thought about, hey, where is my balance? Balance, turn, then slowly punch, right? So the practice of Taiji Chuan says 用意不用力. When you say 用意不用力, you don't even know what that means when the teacher tells you that. But what does it do? At the very least, it restrains you from using your habitual way of moving. Even though you don't know what it means, you slow down. Oh, so you practice slowly. In that way, you try to break your bad habit and then cultivate good habits of how you move. Okay? That is. Oh, I mean, there are lots of information, and you know what? A lot of it is, interestingly, is contained in this book. And I, of course, been a good marketer. I bought a bunch of these books, so you're welcome to come buy from me at the back. It's very good price today, $25, down from $35, and you don't have to pay shipping from Amazon. Okay, so feel free to come get a copy from me at the back later. Okay, during your lunch time. Bye. Thank you.
And we can get your signature too, right?
Oh yes.
That's great. And so just hold on. Initially, we had the mini talk scheduled before lunch, but I think due to the situation we're facing now, we're going to skip that. We're going to combine that with another mini talk scheduled in the afternoon. So almost all, but I think just for the sake of it, there's time for 1 or 2 questions. We'll see. Yeah, number 1, please.
刚才那个王先生讲的非常好，我就是想说，再加2句话，一个就是说你用腰的时候，是不是还要加上丹田气啊？加上丹田气。第二个就是说，一般人对太极拳误会就是说，你发劲的时候，你把它翻成英文就是 when you discharge your internal strength, you are as fast as an arrow.
Yeah.
就是放箭，发劲如放箭。
Thank you very much. Actually, all that is explained in far more detail inside. Thank you.
王爷，你讲一下呢我会买那本书的，你介绍一下你自己。
Oh,
yeah, self-introduction. Actually, it's in the PowerPoint.
Okay. I think it's easy.
Yeah, but I think it cannot replace you introduce yourself here.
Well, I studied Tai Chi. When I came to Tai Chi, not because I wasn't feeling well, or I needed something to cure me. When I was young, right? We all grow up reading wuxia xiaoshuo, right? We see all these marvelous kung fu guys and all that. And then suddenly we see these Tai Chi masters who are old and they can do all these wonderful things. So that has always been at the back of my mind. So I decided to study Tai Chi given the chance, which I did, interestingly, not some 50, think about it, 50 years ago. So the master came, so I started to learn Tai Chi. That was, of course, in those days. We only have Yang Tai Chi outside the world, right? So I followed Yang, learned Yang Tai Chi. And then, very fortunately, I was able to meet the Chen masters, the Sida Jinggangs that came out of the country in the 1980s. Okay? So then I reinforced myself. I mean, I have to understand, hey, you remember during the 1980s, there was this Qigong craze about Qigong, right? And they have all kinds of Qigong marvelous stuff, And I'm a mathematician by trade, okay? So I kind of figured that, hey, this thing doesn't make sense at all. But at the very least, if I understand these things, I can figure out what the hell it is. So I too was crazy. I also joined Qigong, trying to learn Qigong, right? And then I found that the more I investigated, the more I find out that whatever that you see in Qigong are very good magic tricks, 1. And 2, there's nothing new in as far as physics is concerned. And then I decided that very fortunately for me, because I was exposed to the great masters. I mean, I spend a lot of time with them. They live with me. I go visit them. I live with them. So I see the body mechanics. I see everything. Over the years, I observe and see, and in my own mind, my own Western so-called educated mind, right? So I try to see if I can match the ideas. And that is my pursuit of Tai Chi training. I hope that answers your question.
Great.
Thank you very much, for all the great presentation, this morning. We're kind of, wrap up for the morning, the lectures and presentations. But before we go for the lunch, and can we take a picture together in the front of that, the forum, the banners? Let's just, the banners is over here. Can we just stand up and then take a picture?
Yeah.
In front of